GOP state attorneys general banding together to push the Supreme Court to take up Hawaii's climate change case after the Aloha State sued several fossil fuel companies over the emissions that their products release. 20 Republican AGs say the suit is a grave threat. Joining us now, Kentucky Attorney General Russell Coleman is here. Attorney General, thank you for being with us. Tell us a little bit about this case, why you're moving forward with it, and why it poses a greater threat.
Well, Jackie, Taylor, Guy, thank you for having me. I have to say thank you for pausing and spending time on this issue. I ran for Attorney General. I've only been in the job 3 months. I ran for Attorney General as a former federal prosecutor, as a former law enforcement officer, to focus on violent crime, to focus on the drug epidemic. That's what I thought I would be spending the bulk of my time on. But I very quickly discovered in working with attorneys general, Republican attorneys general from across the country, that one of the greatest threats to our families in terms of their pocketbooks, in terms of the sky-high inflation that we're seeing, is this radical green agenda that is the primary, they call it the all-of-government approach coming out of the Biden administration. You mentioned Hawaii and litigation in Hawaii. And if I'm your viewer sitting at home, I'm scratching my head and wondering, why is the Kentucky Attorney General here to talk about litigation in Hawaii? Well, that's the very point, because litigation, state litigation against energy producers in Hawaii, in the hands of left-of-center judges and a left-of-center Hawaii Supreme Court, is affecting the energy industry across the United States, fuel prices across the United States. The issue before the United States Supreme Court, and I'm proud to join 19 of my colleagues, led by Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall, in asking the Supreme Court to take a look at this case out of Hawaii, to take a look at a matter that should be in federal court. How is it that left-of-center judges in Hawaii are allowed to determine energy policy and ultimately fuel prices in Kentucky or Alabama and West Virginia? And that's exactly what's going to happen if the United States Supreme Court doesn't take up this case and doesn't determine that it's up to the federal courts to make these decisions, not a left-of-center judge in Hawaii or California.
So, Mr. Attorney General, if you are successful, and this coalition is, what's the best conceivable outcome that you're looking for, and what are your prospects, you think, at SCOTUS?
Right, and I'm not speaking to the merits of this case. What I am speaking to is this: our system is designed, our federal system is designed by our founders through the Commerce Clause. Those of you law nerds, or those of you who spend some time looking at our Constitution, to give Congress the authority to regulate interstate commerce. And the very nature of what we're talking about here, the energy industry, its size, its impact on every state in the nation, should be heard by federal courts, not some left-of-center judges in Hawaii. And let me say this: I go back to President Reagan's maxim from his debate in New Hampshire. He would say, "There you go again." Well, in terms of what we're seeing in Hawaii, what we're seeing in Kentucky, what we're seeing across the nation, this president, this administration, and its radical green agenda, it's like saying, "There you go again," and again and again. It's not just this litigation in Hawaii. I'm Attorney General. It's my job to keep an eye on these matters, and sometimes we're facing so much regulation, over-regulation coming out of Washington, D.C., that it's hard to keep them straight. We filed twice. Yes, of course. I'm sorry. Not
Attorney
intended to
General,
filibuster.
You're saying something that makes me want to jump in here, because you talk about all of the other issues that you're facing, all of the other litigation from the federal powers that are impacting you and Kentuckians. So it was interesting. You had a press release today saying that a federal judge blocked a Biden emissions rule that targeted gas-powered vehicles. Had it not been struck down, states would then be effectively going it alone and each setting their own emission standards, which doesn't work when we're all crossing the street. So how important is it that this really is a federal issue and not a state-by-state case?
Well, we demonstrated, and I'm proud, this morning the judge ruled in the Western District of Kentucky that ruled on behalf of the Commonwealth and a couple of dozen attorneys general, again, working in concert to stop talk about, again, all of government approach, to stop a left-of-center green reg coming out of the Federal Highway Works Administration, of all places, not the EPA in this instance. So it is incredibly important that we're fighting these matters. We're successful in federal court. We last month alone, I joined litigation both in Washington, D.C. and in Kentucky on two different EPA overreach matters, and dealing with methane gas and dealing with the air particulate matter coming out of the EPA. If your viewers are not familiar with this, it is the most draconian, most significant threat to industry, to manufacturing that we have seen, I would argue, in the last decade.
These are big fights. Attorney General Coleman, thank you so much for leading the way.
I'm grateful for your focus on this issue.